Realtors, listen closely. In this video, I'm going to go through the exact process and template you should take your buyers through at an open house or a buyer's consultation that will lock them down as your clients. I'm going to go through 12 slides, the exact slides I used to lock down multi-million-dollar clients and hundreds of clients at open houses, and exactly what to say at each slide. I preface the conversation by explaining that I'm going to go through all of the pertinent things that they need to understand. There's a lot of things out there, but what I'm going to do is distill all of the information to what's important for them so they can make proper decisions. The first slide I take them through is pre-approval. I explain to them what that's like, that I will connect them with lenders and a couple different options if they don't already have one. And that lender is going to ask them for a couple things like tax returns and pay stubs and potential liabilities that they have to determine debt to income ratios and what their potential budget actually is. And I leave it at that. Specifying the criteria is something that is very important today. With all the information out there, it makes it difficult to find exactly what you're looking for. What I want to do with you is take you through the entire MLS and look at only properties that I know that you're interested in based on the criteria that you gave me, leaving nothing out. So we'll look at the entirety of the MLS and break it down to only those properties and go through every single one of those properties with a fine-tooth comb. And then when we're ready, we actually look at the ones that we know that you're going to be interested in. After I explain that defining criteria portion, we hop into the next steps, and that is touring homes, writing offers, and going pending. And I keep it that simple. So we define your criteria. Then once we have it and we only have a few houses to look at, we will look at every single one of them. Then we will write an offer on the one that you like the most. And then we will go pending. In other words, the seller has accepted our contract. When I get to the earnest money slide, I make sure to explain to them what that even means, because a lot of buyers don't know what it is. The best way to explain it to people who've never purchased a house before would be likening it to a security deposit. You put the earnest money down to make sure that you're serious about buying the property. And if you break the contract, the seller gets it. That being said, we're going to put lots of contingencies in place so that if for some reason you don't move forward with the property, but on purpose and in accordance to our contract, you get to retain that money. And if you decide to end up buying the property, then that earnest money can be utilized towards your down payment or your closing costs. Then I explain what a home inspection is. The basics. It's going to make sure that your house isn't going to fall over, that the roof is in decent condition, that there's no leaks or anything crazy. It's probably going to cost you a range between X and Y. That's going to vary depending on your market. Just make sure that you give them a broad range, and then you move on to the next slide. When you explain the down payment, you basically just say this. After you have a conversation with your lender, you're going to know exactly what you need to put down in order to achieve the loan. Depending on the type of loan you're getting, that could be 0 all the way up to 50, 60, 100% of the property if you're going to buy cash. And I leave it at that. You can have the conversation with all of the specifics with the lenders that I set you up with after the conversation. After I delve into the down payments, I hop into the next cost, which is closing costs. And a lot of buyers aren't even aware that these exist. And I broad stroke this conversation by saying it simply. It's going to include a loan origination fee, some taxes, and some insurance and some prepaids. And what that will likely be, depending on the price point, is X. And I give them a percentage range. Now, you're going to know that in your specific market. And usually at like $500,000, you're looking at 2.5% to 3%. And once you get above that, obviously the percentage goes down because there are fixed costs. Just make sure you have a range percentage that you can explain to them that is over and above the cost of the down payment. I also then say, if that is something you want to avoid, we can try to negotiate that in, or all of that cost of the closing costs in to the negotiation of the purchase of your house, so you don't have to pay that out of pocket above your down payment. Then I break down all of the specific costs of the process, from earnest money to being about 1% or a minimum $1,000 is typically what I explain to them, to your home inspection being X to Y depending on your marketplace, to then the down payment that you're going to have a conversation about with your lender, to the closing costs that are going to be X to Y, or we wrap that up into the negotiations of their purchase. Then I break down a table of an example timeline, from writing an offer to going pending, to putting your earnest money in to the next couple days, having an inspection within the first 5 to 10 days, to then ultimately closing on their house, typically around 30 to 45 days, keeping it really high level so that they don't get bogged down into all of the specific details. After I've explained all of these nuances at a fairly high level, I explain the benefits of working with me, or I explain the benefits of working with my team. Whatever your situation is, you want to make sure you're explaining the benefits of you, local knowledge, touring properties, defining criteria, negotiating hard for them. Whatever those specifics are that make you an amazing realtor is what you explain in this slide. And you, again, keep it fairly short and concise, because you don't want to come across like you're gloating or explaining that you're the best, because that can be off-putting as well. Just make sure that they understand that you're an expert, and if they choose to work with you, it's going to be an amazing experience. Then I round the whole presentation out by saying it's completely free to work with me. The seller is going to compensate me at closing, and you don't end up having to pay me a dime until you're completely happy and satisfied and get handed the keys of your property. You never pay me a thing. So you get all of those services I mentioned and complete help throughout the entire process and amazing communication for 100% free. And at that point, I pivot into their next questions if it's at an open house, to try to set up our appointment to define criteria and connect them with lenders. And if this is a buyer's consultation, I ask them to sign a buyer's agreement. And I actually ask everybody after this presentation to sign a buyer's agency agreement with me, because of the current landscape of our marketplace. It's very, very important to do so. So make sure, if they're liking you and you're connecting with them with lenders and setting up criteria appointments, or you've had a consultation to this level, make sure to have copies of agency agreements on hand that they can sign, that you can then send them a copy of. Thank you again for joining me on another video. If you want this content to continue, please consider liking for the YouTube algorithm and subscribing to the channel for future content about how to get clients, how to nurture clients, how to build brokerage teams, how to sell luxury properties, brand yourself as an agent, etc., etc. I'm super excited that you're on the channel, and I hope to see you on the next video.